a lot more better than you can leave it to that.
Yes, exactly. We'll see how well he's got that.
Okay, everybody have their microphones on, please. Okay, it is 6:30 on the evening of November 2nd. This is a regular meeting of the Arlington City Council. I'm Mayor Rich Nagel. I will be presiding. And at this time, I would invite you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, all of you in the audience. Please sign the check-in sheet if you haven't yet. At this time, I'll roll call. Councilmember Morgan.
Here.
Councilmember Batcher.
Here.
Councilmember Sharpie.
Here.
Councilmember Omrine.
Here.
Councilmember Gilman.
Here.
Okay, all council members are accounted for. Also at the table is on my left is City Administrator Amy Newsom, and I believe Ross Arneson is called in. Are you there, Ross?
Yes, I am, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Ross Arneson is available on phone. He did tell me he would be on the phone until about 7, or on our phone until about 7. Then he had to call into another meeting, and then he would, after that meeting, be back again calling into this one. So if there is anything that he needs to weigh in on, we can wait until after that return. All right, are there any changes in the agenda? Any additions, corrections, additions?
I have one addition to the agenda. Jen Strack stopped in to visit me today, and they would like to, some parents, not Sibley East, would like to do a homecoming parade starting at down by the public works shop down to the bakery and then heading towards school. So if we want to put that under new business,
New business or announcements? I would say announcements.
or if you just want it under announcements,
Announcements, and if someone has a
concern.
concern, speak up at that time. All right, any other additions, corrections? If not, a motion is in order to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Omrine, second by Councilmember Batcher to approve the agenda with the one change, with the one addition. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion's carried. The consent agenda this evening consists of the following items. Item A, approval of the bills. Item B, approval of October 19th council workshop minutes. Item C, approval of the October 19th council minutes. And lastly, item D, October 12th, 2020 personnel and employee relations minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Second.
Motion by Councilmember Sharpie, second by Councilmember Morgan to approve the consent agenda as read. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Is there anyone in the audience this evening who wishes to address the council? Seeing none, we'll move on to announcements. Maybe?
Just a reminder that tomorrow is election day, general election here. We have 5 running for 3 open seats at the moment, a 4th to be determined later. And then Sibley East, as I mentioned, the addition to the agenda, Sibley East would like to have a homecoming parade on Friday at 3:30, starting down by our public works shop, going down to the bakery, and then heading north. They do not want to close the street. They just wanted to let us know that they would like to have a parade. If anyone has any objections, let me know. The chief of police was okay with it.
Any concerns on the homecoming parade? All right, hearing none, move on to communications.
There is a copy of the July 27th cemetery minutes and the July 27th park minutes. Tim has taken those two committees over because he is working on mapping the cemetery and he is working on the two park projects. So he is in charge of those committees now. Also in the packet is the MMPA public summary from the meeting that I attended a couple weeks ago, and some information from the Arlington Historical Society, including their minutes and their financial statement.
Okay, just one note regarding the Historical Society. I know they have had a few resignations recently, and they are looking for members. If there's anyone interested that you know of, please have them get in contact with someone from the Historical Society or check in here at City Office. And they will be informed who to get a hold of.
I know they were specifically looking for a treasurer,
Yes.
if anyone is interested in filling that position.
Yeah. And I believe they had just recently another resignation, someone retiring off of there, so they are looking for someone to fill those positions. Moving on to reports. Item A, October Public Works Report. Kirby Laker.
Kirby, don't forget to turn your microphone on.
Okay.
So they can hear you.
And probably pull it a little closer to you too, Kirby.
Mhm.
Good evening.
Good evening.
All right. Okay, I think since the last time we spoke, Daniel was in the middle of finishing up some street signs replacements. We finished that up kind of in the northwest quadrant of town, between County Road 9 and Highway 5, between Shamrock and Elgin up here, and West Brooks. Most of the town needs to be updated in sections, but we started here because we had that round street sign, the Chestnut Drive one. So I just started up here. So we finished that up. Finished tree planting in the boulevards. Most of the 28 trees that we planted were put in along East Clinton Street in the new project area last year. They took down about 40 trees. I think we put in like 25 or 24. I planted them away from service lines. They have that marked in the curbs where the water and sewer is, so I try to keep them as far away as possible from those and kind of back from the curb enough so when they're mature they don't bust up the curb in the street. In the future, with planting, and we spend time watering, making sure the soil keeps moist until it freezes. We had our first snowplow of the year, October 20th. After that. So of course we got all our snow equipment out, got that ready to go, and oil changes, grease, got the sander truck ready. Guess it got icy, which it never really did. And this is kind of the time of year we do yearly and hourly equipment servicing on all our equipment, so transmission oil, hydraulic oil, gear, engine oil, air filter changes. We've been busy with that. Picked up our new truck today from Brow, the Chevy pickup. We'll be bringing that down to Mankato, I think, Wednesday, and the plow will be mounted Thursday or Friday, so we'll get it back next Monday, like most likely with the new plow. Gutters were installed at the Line Center building by Minnesota Gutter. Turned and moved the compost pile a couple weeks ago, mixed in all the new material that was brought out this year. Of course, we were sweeping leaves in September, and then it snowed, so that kind of put us on hold for a while. Now we're ready to go again, kind of waiting for the last batch of leaves to fall as well. Cut down a couple bad trees that were along the walking trail up by Sportsman's Park. Just knocked them down last week before all this wind was coming, and those haven't been cleaned up yet. At least they're down. Street painting was completed downtown, in the downtown area, curbs, parking stripes, parking lots. and the curbs done around the school. Monthly building checks, we changed all the filters out, heating in the buildings are so far is working well. And then just looking ahead with this nicer weather, that's cutting some trees in the boulevards in town, doing some pruning along the streets, and hopefully get some sidewalks too. Street sweeping, got some dirt fill to do, and where there's new curbs poured, and in the cemetery and sunken spots. We'll get Kenny back out on the mower in the parks one last time, and he'll be chopping leaves too in the parks. And then there's always continuing to work on sealing the shop, the loose nails on the roof. As time kind of progresses and weather. Then try to get the alleys dressed up too before it freezes, so it can fall nice. That's the gist of it.
What's the, give us an upgrade on street lights? Have the new LED lights all been installed? Are you still working on that?
There's a few to put in Memorial Park yet. Just those fell by the wayside because spring came around and we need the bucket truck to do it because we don't have a ladder tall enough. Well, it's such a heavy truck that it's so soft along the sidewalks.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was going to call Newsmeyer, have him do it, and it's just kind of fell off the wayside.
So you probably can get it on once the ground freezes?
Yeah, I probably should just have him do it. Use somebody else, an electrician, do them. I hate to take that big heavy truck along those sidewalks.
Okay. How are they been working?
Other than that, I have to check on the post tops again what am I thinking? Not the new development, but the one west of town. Polar Drive, I think that is somewhere over there. There might be a couple post stops that are around houses that didn't get done, but other than that,
LED lights are working well?
yeah, they're working great.
Good.
Yep. Every now and then I've had a loose wire or something. It had nothing to do with the equipment, just had to tighten the wire in there. And then they light back up. Yeah, they're doing good.
And you mentioned about the roof, the roof on the maintenance building. What did we determine yet on that as far as put a coating on? Or?
Yeah, it's like a real thick
Yeah, when is that?
compound that you just go along and you dab on top of the nails. And it's pretty wicked stuff.
When you're doing that,
It just takes forever. There's thousands of nails in there. You need 40 degrees and above to do it.
Okay.
So we had that cold stretch and then snow.
Yeah. Any questions for Kirby? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I forgot to mention that Lisa cut the check to Browse today since they picked up the truck, didn't pick up.
Okay. Yeah. All right, October ambulance report. Jamie Likely, good evening.
Good evening. Okay, so we've had some recent resignations, and they were included in your guys' council packets. And I'm just here to answer any questions if you have any. I know several people did reference the changes to the schedule. When I first started and regarding the schedule, I tried to allow more of a diplomatic approach to have that crew kind of have some control over the schedule as far as making sure everything is covered. Through the last couple of months, we've had a substantial amount of coverage gaps, which kind of led me to have to put together something else. And I did ask and recruit some help from some of the other crew members to see what kind of ideas that worked in the past, which ones haven't. And it was brought up that before the merger, they did have a specific schedule where each group or crew member was on a specific night of the week. And then they were on a rotation for the weekends. And I thought, well, okay, so I kind of sent it out amongst the group just to see what kind of feedback I could get. And it was actually pretty well received. So that's what I ended up doing, is I established a new schedule to try and continue to limit those coverage gaps. Unfortunately, there was some discontent in regards to this new schedule, and as you can see, there were a few more resignations. But I'm not led to believe that it was all because of the schedule. I know several of them were the work-life balance issues, and then in particular with Mr. Lou, with his years of service, he did inform me that he was kind of anticipating resigning many, many months ago. He just was trying to hang in there for as long as he possibly can. And he said now would have been the time for us to resign, which is unfortunate because he's been with the service for years. So in recognition of that, we'd like to give him a plaque and then also recognize him for his 26 years of service on the ambulance. Do any of you guys have any questions about that?
Any questions on the resignations? They were put in this position on the agenda so that we could, if there's any discussion on them. If there is no discussion, I would call for a motion to accept all of those 4 resignations, all in one motion.
I'd just like to say I appreciate all the years combined service that all these people have given. It's, I mean, they've been with us forever. It's sad to see them go. But I appreciate everything that they've done. I'll make a motion to accept the resignations.
Just second.
Motion by Councilmember Batchor, second by Councilmember Sharkey to accept the resignations of Lisa Roseland, Bryce Klecko, Wendy Kuby, and Bob Luth from the Arlington ambulance staff. They are all EMTs. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried.
All right, to give you kind of a brief update on what the ambulance has been up to thus far. I wanted to give you a student update. Out of the 5 students, the one has passed her practical. She's waiting to get permission from the state of Minnesota to take her written exam. And I'm hoping that that'll be completed this week. Unfortunately, it does take some time to get that authorization to test letter. So she's hoping to sit for the written. As far as the other 4 that did not pass their practical, they do have an opportunity to do it again. And that date will be December 6th. And I do believe that'll be through Crown College as well. So we'll hopefully get them to go through on that as well. So then they can also apply for that authorization to test letter so they can sit for the written. Let's see here. We've also decided to kind of change it up a little bit where the ambulance meetings will meet every 2nd Wednesday of the month at 6:30. This was kind of brought to our attention too to kind of coincide some of the trainings with the fire department to kind of reestablish that relationship with them as well. So hopefully that'll work in our favor. This weekend, I will actually be taking an online class through the National Association of EMS Educators. It's a level 1 instructor course. This will give the city an opportunity to establish its own EMS curriculum to train anybody who wants to be an EMT. So this will give me the certification to do that. I'm kind of excited about it. It'll be interesting. Typically with that class, they would do it where you would meet with a group of people, but because of COVID restrictions and such, they've been having to put together kind of a hybrid online course. That's how we're doing that this weekend. Let's see here. I did take the recommendation in regards to the medical training reimbursement, and that's something that will come down the line here as well. It was suggested that instead of having the EMT students commit to a 1 year of service, they have to go according to 2 years. So I've since changed that reimbursement agreement too for potential students. And as of to date, I have 4 that are interested in taking the EMT class beginning in January. So I'm kind of excited about that.
Mhm.
Let's see here. Also, just to let you know as well, some of our out-of-town EMS personnel, the ones from Green Isle and Gaylord, to try and aid our coverage gaps on our schedule, we kind of entertained putting together a kind of like a liability release form stating that if they can respond within the 8 minutes that they're allotted per city policy, that they can sign this liability waiver, allowing them to take call from home, in addition to being able to take call here in town with that incentive. So it gives them some more flexibility and another option. Trying to think if there's anything that I'm missing. Yes, okay, so as the year's kind of coming to an end here, I'm trying to figure out, looking forward to January and to 2021, trying to run some preliminary numbers as far as revenue, expenses, that sort of thing with our budget. And I did reach out to Ridgeview to find out exactly how many transfers we've given up essentially after 6 p.m. Monday through Friday and on weekends. And when I say transfers, these are most likely ALS transfers since we don't have a paramedic staff at those times. I did request kind of a breakdown on timeframes because I wanted to see when the majority of these transfers were going out and if I needed to fan my coverage, so to speak, with the ambulance service to make sure we can maximize on some of this. And unfortunately, I got a lot of resistance. In fact, the only thing that I was given was a number. And it's kind of frustrating because I tried to be very transparent with this. And I was hoping they'd be transparent with me, but unfortunately, that wasn't the case. But from January to the end of September, per Ridgeview, they've transported 58 transfers out of this facility.
And those transfers may go to the cities, may go to Rochester, anywhere, right?
Anywhere, yes. So I wanted to try and put a dollar amount to that. And I did a hypothetical dollar amount, whereas I just assumed that all the transfers were going to Ridgeview and McLean at 28 to 30 miles. And just based upon the fee schedule, without the mileage including, the amount was over $75,000. Including the mileage, at minimum, it was $112,000. I'd really like to figure out a way so we can maximize these transfers. So what I'm doing is I'm pulling numbers, trying to figure out what it's going to cost, what our projected revenue could be, and hopefully I'm able to get a report by the December's council meeting so you guys can see it in black and white. And again, with EMS, you never know what you're going to get. So basically my numbers are going to be pulled off of years past data, and I'm going to look for that trend and just go from there. But yes, I'd really like our service to be able to maximize from these transfers.
So am I assuming that any transfers that need to be made out of here are Arlington's to take if they have the staff to do it?
Yes, we have the PSA. And PSA law states that ambulance service within that PSA, they get first right to all of those transfers and non-compliance. Essentially, what we ended up doing is because we don't have paramedics after 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, we did it's sort of an approval letter, a pre-approval letter, for lack of better terms, with Ridgeview, allowing RSMC to basically call any other service to take those transfers out if they are ALS. So if they need a paramedic. We're not contractually bound by this. This was just an agreement with the state between the two entities that we're allowing them to come into our PSA and to take these transfers for that continuity of care. So yeah, I'm really looking at that very closely because I really would like to do something about that. I think that's very important. So I will be putting together a preliminary packet of information for you guys.
Now, you had mentioned earlier, before I forget, but you had mentioned earlier about the coverage gaps. What do you do? How do you try and fill those? I mean, what happens?
Well, the major complaint that I got was from the crew members was being inundated with text messages, emails, just asking, begging for coverage. The EMSRB, so the state of Minnesota states that you have to have 24-hour coverage for an ambulance service to actively run. And with that, we do have mutual aid agreements. So in the event that if we're short-staffed due to like COVID issues or things to that nature, or even if our primary truck is out on a call or a transfer, those mutual aid agreements do come into play. Whereas we have mutual aid agreements with either Winthrop, Alina, Ridgeview, to make sure that our PSA is covered at all times. But with that and staffing issues, we've had to fall back on those mutual aid agreements several times this last month, and I don't like that. That's not what those mutual aid agreements are for. And yeah, it's unfortunate, but because of the most recent resignations and stuff, it really has put a crunch on the crew members now. Whereas they used to be required for 48 hours minimum on call a month. Now it's been increased to 72. And so they're covering the best that they possibly can within reason. And I just don't want them to get burnt out any further than what they already are. With that being said, one of the gals that was on our roster, she was since deployed, but she's now back. We'll be training her this week, so we'll hopefully get her off and running in the next couple weeks. And then keeping my fingers crossed and thoughts for Danielle, as she sits for the written, so I'm confident she'll pass. And then just to be supportive for those that haven't been able to sit for the skills in the written yet, to the best of my ability.
How long is the coursework for the EMT?
About 4 months. Yeah.
Is that full-time or part-time or?
Part-time. Many moons ago in a land far, far away, it used to be a blended learning class where you go to school Tuesdays and Thursdays. Now, because of COVID, a lot of the schooling they've now created hybrid learning, so a lot of it is online, but they're able to schedule out skills sessions so they have that contact. Because a lot of EMS is contact, it's people skills. And so these institutions are trying their best as far as to accommodate for these students, even though we're limited with COVID.
How are we doing on paramedic coverage?
Good. Between Mike, and the other 3 part-time, we're doing just fine Monday through Friday through the 11 coverage. I have been reaching out to several of my colleagues to see if there is some interest in additional paramedics, but there's some interest in additional EMTs too. So I've been working with the city administrator to make sure that we get that information out, that we're currently looking for additional staff. But this isn't the only service that's been crippled by it. There have been a multitude of services that have a hard time recruiting.
What's the jump between, as far as education, EMT and paramedic?
In order to go to schools to be accepted in a paramedic program, they typically require an EMTB certification. So you'll have to do the EMT first. And depending on where you go, again, things have changed since I've been in paramedic school. There is a institution down in Sioux Falls that has a 9-month program. And the institution that I attended was a 2-year program. So it varies. It takes some time. It does.
Then you have the ambulance policy that you needed some approval on.
Yes. That was also included in the packet as well.
Now, were there a lot of changes in that, or just, I mean, I didn't print mine out because I thought there's no way that I'm gonna be able to find through it and compare or whatever.
No, it's just, we added that, the incentive pay, so the
Right,
longevity
yep,
incentive.
saw that.
A lot of the information stayed the same with the exception of the scheduling. That did change, and then the holiday information too, which will be on the agenda as well.
Mhm.
But nothing as far as the job description has changed in any of the information. None of that has been changed. We did add the COVID exposure plan as well. Go on with the bloodborne pathogen disclosure plan. But other than that, those were the only major changes.
Okay, we will need a motion then to approve that ambulance policy. If anyone is comfortable with that.
I'll make a motion to approve the ambulance policy.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Omerion, second by Councilmember Batchor to approve the ambulance policy. And that is the one that was in our packet. Is there any further discussion? Any concerns? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried.
All right, the last part, I talked to Amy in regards to holiday pay for our crew members. They currently get the $4 an hour for on-call and then the $17 for dispatch calls. And to be consistent with other agencies around this area, I felt it was necessary to raise the holiday pay to $25 for dispatch calls and then continue with the $4 an hour on call. And then the actual holidays that were listed in here mimics what we have currently as holidays in the city policy. So it just stay consistent.
Make a motion to approve the holiday pay for ambulance members.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Batchor, second by Councilmember Sharkey to approve the holiday pay for ambulance members. Any further discussion?
Do you have a list of the holidays? Which one are we?
Yeah, they're right here.
Yeah,
It's the
they
same.
should be attached.
11 days.
Really? The Friday after Thanksgiving?
It mimics the personnel policy. It's a holiday for us. We exchanged that for Columbus Day. Remember you asked me about
Okay.
Columbus Day?
Yep.
That's
All right.
why.
That's
Mhm.
fair. I'd rather tack on the day after Thanksgiving. Monday, October.
Councilmember Morgan, did you find that what you were looking for? Yes. Any questions on that? Are we ready to vote?
I'm ready.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
She said aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried.
Thank you. Is there any other questions that you have for me?
No, I just have one question. I'm a little confused about the transfers that are being lost to Ridgeview. You said that was January through November.
Through September.
September. That means we were losing transfers during the merger. Then.
Through the JPA, yes.
Okay. Good. I think that's an important point for everybody to know.
Okay, any other questions of Jamie? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your report. Moving on to item 9, resolution accepting a donation from the Fire Relief Association.
This is $601.70. This is to pay the extra cost for the grain bin rescue equipment that wasn't paid for by grants that Chief Saskey received. So it's to make up the difference.
I'll introduce resolution 61, 2020, accepting a donation from the Arlington Fire Relief Association and designating its use for green bin rescue equipment not paid for by grants in the amount of $601.70.
Second.
Okay, resolution 61-2020, introduced by Councilmember Amram, second by Councilmember Morgan. It is a resolution accepting a donation from the Arlington Relief Association and in the amount of $601.70, and that will be used for grain bin rescue equipment. Any further discussion? Hearing none, this will be roll call. Councilmember Gilman.
Yes.
Councilmember Morgan.
Yes.
Councilmember Batchor.
Yes.
Councilmember Sharkey.
Yes.
Councilmember Amram.
Yes.
5 votes in favor, none opposed. The resolution is adopted. All right, next, there is no unfinished business. We'll move on to new business. Approve deny request for increased annual benefit level to the Fire Relief Association.
Tim, why don't you come forward? Tim stopped in the office on Friday and pointed out that in 2017, I looked it up, the benefit level for the Fire Relief Association was $1,600, then $1,650. It was $1,700 for the year 2020. And he was asking if it could be bumped up to $1,750, just kind of keeping on that same schedule for 2021.
Yes.
So council would have to approve that because it wasn't part of that 3-year approval.
In doing so, through the state auditors, we have $88,382 extra in that fund that allows us that we would be able to raise it to $1,750 and we'd be able to fund it.
So where's the money coming from that? What fund?
It's fire relief. It's
a fund that the Arlington Fire Relief Association has had for, well, since it was made back 4 years ago.
That's where the 2% money goes all into.
All the state aid goes there and all that. It's purely for pension payments to fire relief members, which is you can't be on the fire department without having or being part of the Fire Relief Association. Basically, it's you become vested after 10 years at 50%. After 20 years, you're vested fully for that. We get audited on it every single year. It's basically just, you can only be used for pensions stuff. There's no way that you can use it for anything else but that. So basically, it's a big game of, pumping it so that you're covering it all and using it all and whatever. The only time that it ever becomes an issue is if for some reason we have a really, really bad year, like 2008, I believe, was a bad year. And then you guys, council and city, are required to contribute to it to make sure it's covered at that point. It doesn't happen very often that there's an issue like that, but this seems that no way.
You have fundraisers also that contribute to this. Is that correct?
That actually goes to our general fund.
Okay, that's in
which is
general
what
fund.
we use to pay, like, for the grain bin equipment for to get our name out there for Arlington Fire Department and that to do basically any events that we want to do. Like the pork chop meal that we did, a lot of that was paid for through that general fund, and the proceeds go back into the general fund. That way we can buy more equipment and stuff and help out you guys, so you don't have to keep coming to you guys to ask for money. Yeah, that's a completely different fund.
Okay.
This pension thing,
That's all we have too, is the 2 funds. We have the relief, pension fund and then our general fund, which that's what we do fundraiser. It's the only one that write checks in the mouth. Into this restricted pension.
So the $1,700 exactly is that what you get put into each of the pensions?
per year for every year of service, each member gets 1,700 into this fund.
Mhm.
But they don't get the full about 1,700 until they hit the 20-year.
Right.
So
Mhm.
at 10-year, you only,
That's
50% vested, and then it's prorated, it's all documented, it's all done by the state, it's completely regulated by them. So
Mhm.
if you retire at 18 years, you're not gonna get that 1,700 total. It's a smaller dollar.
You would get whatever it was when you were 10 years.
you get whatever the year is that you retire. So
Mhm.
anybody that's an active member now gets bumped. Like last year, everybody went that was an active member went from 1,650 to 1,700 for all their years of service, all the way back to when they first started. For you, for instance, 32 years.
Now, I'll be 33 years, and it's 1,700. Yeah, I'm at 56,100. And I can actually just send this around real quick. It does have everybody listed on there.
That number is what the state auditor uses to determine how liable they are to each of the fire members.
Yeah, and that's where on the one page that showed that we need 1,000
Mhm.
numbers in our surplus.
And we've had quite a few members who have retired and deferred and not taking payments, which has helped us keep a lot of funds in there that makes you more money a lot quicker
Mhm.
type thing, and that's why we were able to.
So we had it right around the million.
Yeah.
Really close to, just short of $1 million, I believe. It's around.
99 or something.
Yeah.
So isn't it that they run the hypothetical that if all of those people were
Were to
retired right
retire,
now,
yeah,
would there
yeah.
be enough to cover?
At that.
That's.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Or God forbid, everybody would be in a big accident, the whole department's going, you need to be able to pay out.
Pay it out.
Yeah.
all that
Mhm.
stuff. But with the 10-year, 50% vested, before that you get nothing, that's one of the ways that they drive people to stay on and stay members. Is
Mhm.
that
Yeah, so if they're on for 9 years, they resign.
They get nothing?
stays in there.
Yeah, they have to have the 10-year to get half of it. Which is nice, and then everything you guys have done on the side for us with the
Mhm.
perks of the 10-year, 20-year perks and stuff has helped tremendously. Really appreciate that. It's working well.
Right. Go ahead, Bill.
So where does it, I guess it hasn't clicked with me yet, where the money comes from to begin with to go into the fund? Like, is that state puts the money in,
The
so
state,
many members, or?
the state gives us 2%, I think it's 2% of the insurance
Policies
rates.
across.
Mhm.
So, and then everybody in our fire district that pays those insurance rates, 2% of that money comes to the pension.
Back to the city.
Mhm.
To the city, and I think
Right, we just received that within the past month or
It was
so.
like 20,
Oh, it was like 32 or
$32,000.
something like that.
$1,000. Mhm.
And then, of course, then we invest that, and then investments, you know. have
That's
them grow.
what funds the rest of it is you try to do good investments. Basically, to keep it going, financial back.
So is that the same thing like when we get the money from the police department or from the Minnesota
Yep. the
Mhm.
police?
The police get
Do
it
the
as
same
well.
thing?
Mhm.
So, but like what we do with that money is that we just take that and put it in the general fund.
Correct. Except
So-
theirs goes into their retirement. Mhm.
Well, there's, because that's what we say, or that's because.
That's a state law that we have to put that into the firefighters' retirement.
State law for back, I think, when a lot
Mhm.
of fire departments got taken over by the city, because they used to be their own thing. There was nothing tied to the city really back a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I know ours started well before 1972, I know, for
Yeah.
sure.
And then once the cities got involved, that was written in there. The way I understand it, that money goes to fighting pensions.
Mhm.
Whether or not that's run by us as the League Association under the governance of you guys, or there's other forms out there like AIR or things like that, which are state-run things.
I'll introduce a resolution to approve the Fire Release Association to 1750 for 2021.
Anyone wish to second that?
I'll second.
The motion was made by Councilmember Morgan, second by Councilmember Omerion, to approve the request to increase annual benefit level, the Arlington Fire Relief Association, to $1,750 for the year 2021. Further discussion?
Only thing, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, are we just asking for another 50 just to stay consistent, or is that something that is calculated as it's gonna cover?
That's why we said about it, maybe some thousand extra.
Okay,
It's gonna take 66,000 to cover it.
Yeah,
okay, all
So
right.
we have 20,000 plus to spare.
and obviously, this is something that you guys and Amy sees and we get emailed to you guys.
Correct.
So
Mhm.
we'll be discussing it probably every year.
Because for this year, when things happen at the election, different things, we'll see what the funds do for next year, but hopefully we can keep going up and.
Like I said, it's a big game of, if the money's there, it can't be used for anything else.
Right.
It literally cannot be used for anything else. So, what's a great way to keep them going, keep members on? And that's why they always ask us. Well, hey,
Is there a raise coming? We're like, yeah, right, we'll get a few guys at once.
Yeah, so at 3% on the 1750, it'd be $52.50. So if we're looking at inflation, I mean, essentially, it's just keeping up with the inflation.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that makes sense. Okay.
Mhm.
The only thing that I'd like to bring up is, what are we doing for our ambulance people? Where are we to? So, they really don't have pension. So, we give them incentives after 5 years, that's $600 a year. What goes out to.
Well, that's what.
But this is only 1750 for each year.
That's $17.50 a year for each year that they serve.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's different. The ambulance, there's not a state statute that requires them to have a pension like the firefighters. So it's different.
That's
I
really what it
understand
is.
that it's different, but is it fair? I mean, I'm not saying that it's not worth it, and I agree with putting money in there, but then I look at what we're doing for our ambulance, and it's not even half per year than what we're giving to the fire department. So.
Well,
per
this
year.
isn't,
Well,
well, yeah, and there's-
bringing up, I mean, I understand that. the
there's money
has to-
coming from the state though, that we don't get for the ambulance
Right.
to put into a pension
It's just the
plan
way
for
the
them.
state uses two different services, and since the fire, the police association has been around forever, and it's the way it's always had with their retirement.
Mhm.
You know, it's not that we're sticking this money in at all, we're getting on to the fund that the city has to pay.
Correct.
We don't have any, the state just views the ambulance as so much different.
Well, I understand that, but us as a city,
Well,
okay, so. it's-
We just brought it back in, so.
Well, I mean-
Think about it more.
Yeah, I guess it'd have to be something that we'd have to consider and look toward the future on, but I think a lot of that also stems from the amount of revenue that we just heard that we're missing out on from that ambulance entity. And if we could get some of that, then we'd be a little bit more flushed off.
Yeah.
Well, okay, but if you want to call apples to apples, that even.
I know, and I know
That's not-
fire doesn't bring in bacon either.
Well, I mean, I think it's like this,
I
right?
know,
I mean, we're not even.
But
we're not
that's,
even
but
close.
that's where we're up against the state law, right? That's where a state law
Right.
comes in and says, we're gonna go ahead and take care of firefighters, ambulance, you're on your own.
Well, absolutely,
That leaves
I-
us on
Mhm.
our own, city stuff.
I get that, and I understand that,
Yes,
I'm
sir.
just bringing up the point that, if this is what we're doing or we're agreeing to, not knowing what the future is gonna bring with the stock market, because that's where all the money is. And if, election tomorrow, who knows what's gonna happen, if we're gonna stay where we're at, or if things are gonna go downhill like they did in '08. Well, I remember we had to kick in a bunch of money then for that year.
Yeah, what happened?
Couple years.
Wait, what was that? Yeah.
It was the stock crash.
So that was,
Yes,
yeah,
it was a crash.
yeah.
Yeah, but if they didn't sell anything, a year and a half later, it was all right back up there.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I mean,
No,
the city
yeah,
kicked
came
in still. I'm not,
Okay.
I'm not against what we're doing here. I'm just
No, I
bringing up
know.
the fact of the ambulance
Yeah,
and
so
how it's not.
most ambulance services are probably Ridgeview type, hospital type situations where they're, paying, they're covering and having 401ks and retirement programs.
And they do have some
Or-
type of retirement, maybe Matt, you could explain a little more, that's SAM or whatever, through the states, or if they're considered a volunteer.
That part I'm not familiar with. The only part I know.
They do get some type of retirement from the state of Minnesota, as long as they're considered a volunteer. I just don't-
Borderline on that too, so.
Yeah, we're borderline, where, like I said, we're kind of quasi-volunteer, but that I don't know, because that is not run through the city at all.
Yeah, I don't remember what our retirement plan was prior to us switching to the incentive plan. I don't think the retirement plan was the great, that great, you know, we want to wait around till 65 or whatever, you know.
To get it. Mhm.
Which is why we do the incentive instead, but yeah, it doesn't, it's never been, even with the retirement plan, the annuals, when we had the retirement plan, it wasn't in 1 year, but fire has, but that's just the way the state views the two different entities. So it's just what we're at, we can look at it later.
Well, yeah.
I think we should
That
all-
doesn't hinge on the decision here.
No, I think
I'm
that-
just bringing that up.
That's a good point to get, I think it's a good point to bring up, Michelle, that we need to look at that and see if there's something the city can or needs to do or would like to do and can do financially for the ambulance also. But we do have a motion here. Is there more discussion on the motion? And that motion is to grant the $1,750 in 2021 for the Fire Relief Association. Hearing no more discussion, motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion is carried. All right,
Well,
thank you, fellas.
Thank you, Chair.
Item 12, approved denied contractor's pay estimate, and this is the final
This
on
is
the 2019 street project.
correct. This is the final for the 2019 street projects. I spoke with Jason Femright when he was in, we were talking about a different EDA project a couple weeks ago, and we went over the punch list, and I said, is everything done? And he said he would double check it, but he thought so. The last thing he was worried about was the grass. He got back to me and said, yes, everything is done. He feels the grass is sufficient
I guess
according to
just
the
as being a
contract.
property owner on that project, there's really nothing property owner or the contractor could do now to make things any better. It's just gonna take a year,
Time to
a
fill
year
in.
or so, and it'll be fine. It is very, it's improved a lot since middle of summer. So,
What happened with the resident? I was expecting a resident coming in and talking with us about an issue with the backyard or something.
That was taken care of to his satisfaction.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve contractor's pay estimate 9, final one, in the amount of $22,142.38 for the 2019 street project.
Second.
motion by Councilmember Batchor, second by Councilmember Morgan, to approve the contractor's pay estimate number 9, which is the final payment in the amount of $22,142.38 for the 2019 street improvement project. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Item 13, discussion on allowing the Lions Place recycling bin.
Laura, I'm gonna let you talk about this one.
Okay. The Arlington Lions have partnered with the Chamber of Commerce to collect plastic film bags for recycling. These are typically bags like grocery bags and bread sacks and things like that that are not often recycled. We need to collect 500 pounds, and we are asking the city for approval to place one of the recycling bins in the city parking lot on the alternate Saturday recycling days.
Okay, so the bin would just be there for that one day?
Yes, and at this point, I believe that the goal is to have someone from the Lions there with the bin, so it would not be unattended, to my knowledge.
Have you reached out, has the Lions reached out at all to the chamber at all? Asking for maybe businesses to help participate? Having like bins or something at their business? I think of Jerry's and stuff like that where people.
Yes, Jerry's has already agreed to, as has Hagen Miller.
Good. All right, seems like a good cause.
Mhm.
Do we need a motion on this?
Who takes the bags? Like, or do we have somebody lined up to?
I
to take
believe
There's a
that's-
company, Laura, do you know the name of the company that's gonna take the bags and turn them into a bench?
No, the last I heard was that we were going to send them with whoever takes Jerry's recycling.
Oh, okay.
And if that's changed, then I have not been told.
Are we paying to get rid of them?
No, we are not. Ultimately, what happens is those bags, and I think this is the question you were asking. The recycling will be taken by Jerry's Recycling, but it ends up at a company called Trex. And then,
That's what it is.
right, and then when we've managed to collect 500 pounds, Trex donates a bench to the community that's made out of recycled plastics.
Okay.
We don't really need a motion
No, I
on
don't
this,
think
as
we
long
need a
as no one
motion,
has
but we-
any
No involvement financially from the city.
big objections to it.
Okay, sounds like a go-ahead.
No.
All right, thank you.
We take ours to, there's a canister outside of Mac and Cheese that we usually dump ours in, but that's what told me if I can do it here, then all better.
Mhm.
All right. Anything more on that? All right, at this time, I